I'm work.
You're so very impatient, Schwab.
People of Philadelphia, the good people.
There you go. There you go. Hey, welcome to the Sports Porch Philadelphia. We are live all over the world on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X. And of course, we drop the podcast right after the show. You can follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. Mm-hmm. Please subscribe. Please leave us a review. Hop on over to YouTube. I'll put the link in the comments a little bit later. And you can follow Schwaber there, the Grand Schwabini. He's in the house.
Schwabini, who knows all.
That's absolutely right. So, on with the show.
On with the show.
All right, Schwaber, thanks for being here, guys. As you know, this is the Philadelphia Sports Porch, where we talk all things Philadelphia sports. And we go page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. And that's because one time Schwaber decided to actually take notes, and he gave me 4 pages of notes. Mm-hmm. So that's what we do. So let's start right now, right here.
Wait, are you sure you don't want to talk eclipse?
I didn't even see it. I didn't even go outside.
I saw it for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Amy got the glasses. She was out there looking, and I was like, "Is this worth looking at?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool."
Really?
So I went out there and I put the glasses on, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But like after maybe 25 seconds, I just kind of said, "Okay, I saw it.
I'm done."
I saw it.
That's why.
Yeah. But isn't it crazy? Like, this obviously they knew this was coming for forever and ever and ever.
Right.
Why did I just hear about it on Saturday? You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know where you've been.
I don't know. I mean, people are driving across the country to be in Alabama to watch it or something.
Well, they said that in the continental United States, supposedly Erie, PA was the best place to see it, and they were pictures of I-79, which is a highway that basically runs straight from Pittsburgh all the way to Erie, mm-hmm. and all the way down in Wexford, which is very close. It's mm-hmm. it's about a 2-hour drive mm-hmm. from Pittsburgh to Erie on a normal day. Okay. They had traffic stacked up for 90 miles for people trying to get there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just, eclipses don't excite me.
Yeah, it doesn't excite me either. No. I mean, look, it's okay. So the moon is over the sun.
Yes.
Who cares if it's 100%?
I know. Yeah, but Mark, it's something you may never see for the rest of your life.
Right. Okay, well, it comes in 20 years. I don't know. Maybe I'm dead. Maybe I'm not.
I know.
I think in 20.
I may never see a blue whale either. I mean, I don't get it. I see the sun and the moon every day and every night.
Right, pretty much.
And really, you, Mark, and this show are my son.
The first thing I said to Amy was, I said, "So what's it look like? Is it and Pittsburgh's supposed to be, which is where I live, even though it's a horrible city, and Philadelphia's the best.
Okay.
It's, I'm like, so what does it look like? And she's like, oh, it's kind of like a crescent moon. I'm like, so it's basically like looking at a crescent moon? I'm like, I see that every night.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
But anyway.
I don't know. So let's go.
All right, let's get out of the galaxy.
Yeah, let's go to. Sorry, I was pulling up the YouTube.
Technical director.
Yeah, let's go to page 1. The Philadelphia 76ers. Now, Joel Embiid is back. Wasn't it Maxey scored 52 points the other night?
Yeah, they're it's either 4-0 or 5-0 with Embiid back. And I did read somewhere that actually in games in which Embiid plays, the Sixers actually have the best winning percentage in the league.
Right.
I find it a little hard to believe that that's better than the Celtics, but I did read it somewhere, so something has to be right about it. Maybe it's Embiid and Maxey in the lineup or something like that. But anyway, Embiid comes back from injury, and the good news is he's back and he's great. He doesn't have any rust. He was obviously, doing cardio on a elliptical or something. So he's been really, really good. The game before this last game, they only played him for a half because he scored 30 points in a half.
Right.
And then what was kind of neat about this game the other night was they decided they were going to rest Embiid because of the back to back. They were going to
Right.
rest. Tobias Harris was out with an injury, and they wanted to rest Kyle Lowry because he's 55. More probably 38. But nobody was basically playing except like Maxey and Oubre, and Maxey puts up 52 and they win without him. So what we're looking at right now is, they're in the playoffs, whether it's play-in or non-play-in.
Right.
Right now, I believe they're the 8th seed.
Right.
They can't be any lower than 8. They can move up to 7, which would give them home court in the play-in round.
And they wouldn't be playing the Celtics. Right.
Or there's still an outside chance that they could, get the 6th seed. I guess to me, I say you go out there and, you try to get the 6th seed. Now, a lot's going to have to happen. Like the Sixers have to win out. And like Indiana has to lose 2 of 3, and the Heat have to lose 2 of 3. It's something like that.
Right.
But essentially what we're looking at here is pulling up the standings.
Yeah, I got them right here.
So the big thing is
right now
they're in 7th.
They're the 7th. They're the 7th seed right now.
So what the 7th seed gets you, assuming you win the playoff game and playing game and you're the 7th seed, then you would have to play the Milwaukee Bucks. Who are, since Doc Rivers took over, they're 15 and 17.
Yeah, wow.
Now they're still a scary team.
They are,
with Giannis and Dame Lillard, and a bunch of guys who had previously won a title together. But you do have the Doc Rivers inability to coach factor.
Yeah.
So look. The bottom line is you'd rather have that than the Celtics in round 1. Now, if you can get to the 6th seed, that's where it's really interesting, because if you get to the 6th seed, you would get either Orlando, New York Knicks, or Cleveland.
Right.
And, to be honest, I think any one of those would be great.
Right.
Cleveland's kind of fallen apart. The Knicks just lost their second best player to season-ending surgery. I mean, Orlando, come on, are they real? So, I mean, the bottom line is this is shaping up to be, we'll see what happens. We'll see how they do. But this is sort of shaping up to be the Nick Nurse specialty of get through the regular season, go into the playoffs healthy with your MVP candidate, and a budding superstar in Tyrese Maxey, and just try to win the whole dang thing.
Yeah, and we talked about this last week.
We did.
They're getting a healthy Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
They're still relevant in the playoff picture, which way back when he got injured,
right? We didn't know.
That was what we were talking about then, which was if they can tread water until he comes back, right, maybe be a couple games over 500. You get a healthy Embiid back and you can roll into the playoffs. He's fresh. So, I don't want to jinx anything, but
it's starting to feel, it's got a good feel.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's also interesting that this is how Nick Nurse, in a way, won his title with Toronto.
Right. Exactly.
It was a little bit different.
Just, Kawhi probably played
more games.
60 games.
More games. Right. Yeah. But I don't know. The Celtics are a powerhouse this year. And once again, if the Sixers are able to make a run for this, they still got to go through Boston.
They do, but
I mean, who's going to take down Boston before? Who is kryptonite for the Boston Celtics this year? They only have 16 losses.
Right. Well, that's the thing. The main acquisition that Boston made was they brought in Drew Holiday.
Right.
Who's a really good point guard, better than Marcus Smart, who they had before. Although Marcus Smart added an element of toughness that Drew Holiday doesn't really have.
Right.
But overall, Drew Holiday is still probably a better player.
Right.
But, the reality is with the Celtics is, they've managed to not win a title the last 3 years.
That's very true.
After pretty much being the favorite all 3 years.
Yeah.
And to be, real blunt about it too. I mean, really, they gave it away against the Sixers last year too. I think the Sixers failed to win because of Harden disappearing in big games and because of a coach that, doesn't know how to coach.
Right.
So, they're ripe for the picking. I mean, look, I've seen Jason Tatum, go through 3 quarters for shooting 2 of 19.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like there's Michael Jordan over there.
That's true.
So, and I almost kind of think like, if we played them this year, it would be like they would probably actually take the Sixers lightly, and we might be able to steal a game or two in the beginning.
Yeah,
and it could flip the whole thing.
Maybe maybe it would be a good thing if the Sixers actually drew them in the first round.
I actually thought about that too.
Yeah,
I thought about that too. Like what imagine if they did draw the Celtics, and then of course you have the Celtics wouldn't have played a few days because of the play-in round,
right?
And the Sixers would probably be hot.
Yeah.
Right? They'd be taking them lightly. Maybe they steal game 1.
Yep.
Maybe they get crazy, win game 2, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're going back home. We're up 2-0.
Yeah, could be.
You never know. Because that's one of those things where, as you know, it's the old, did you peak too soon? Right? Now, some teams...
That happens a lot. That happens a lot.
It does happen a lot. Now, sometimes it doesn't happen. Like, for example... last night, the South Carolina Gamecock women, they won the NCAA Women's Basketball Championship, and they went 38-0. They peaked the whole year.
Yeah. That was actually a very high plateau.
Right. They peaked the whole year. So, and sometimes that's what happens, but a lot of the time, it's that team that peaks early. And then all of a sudden they get into, a fight in a playoff round and, the pressure's on and they crumble.
So 3 more games left.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit, Orlando, Brooklyn, all at home, all winnable games.
Yep.
There's no way they're going to rest anybody because they got to make a push.
No, and none of them are back-to-backs. So
yeah, and now Brooklyn is pretty much out of it.
Well, the teams you want to look at are the only teams that can change place with the Sixers are the Pacers and the Heat.
Right.
And I think the Pacers and the Heat play each other.
Yeah, so you're definitely going to gain something you're going to gain a game on one of them. But what I'm talking about is, Brooklyn is not a good team. Detroit is a horrible team. And who was the other one I was talking about? Orlando. That's the tough one right there. If they can beat Orlando,
they can easily go 3-0.
Yeah, they would end the season 8-0 then.
Right.
And so is that a mini peak? I don't know, but we'll keep you posted here in the Sports Porch because it's kind of starting to get exciting now.
Mm-hmm.
And what unfolded is what is the stat about? You sent a tweet to me about Embiid and Maxey being the only teammates to score 3 50-point games in a year together or something like that.
Yeah. So interesting little tidbit if you're a guy who likes stats. Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid are the first teammates in NBA history to both have 3 games of 50-plus points in the same season.
There you go.
That's pretty darn good.
Well,
that's a good 1 and 2.
Yeah, and two of Maxey's 3 came without Embiid on the court.
That's correct.
So he took the gauntlet and ran with it.
And really just to put that in perspective. So most 50-point games in a season for the Sixers. Wilt Chamberlain did it 5 times in 1965.
Yeah.
Wilt Chamberlain did it 4 times in 1967. Allen Iverson did it 3 times in 2004. Joel Embiid did it 3 times last year.
Mm-hmm.
Joel Embiid did it 3 times this year. And Maxey did it 3 times this year. So basically, you're putting Maxey and Embiid
up there with Iverson and
Wilt Chamberlain. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Wilt is still
That is pretty good.
Well, we'll keep you posted here in the Sports Porch. We got 3 more games to go, and then we'll see where the Sixers are, and then it'll be playoff time. And will we perhaps see a little bit of some Grand Schwabini extra YouTube Sixers playoff
I hope so.
updates?
I hope so. I think what we'll do is we'll cover the playoffs like we did last year. We'll do a report after every playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, look, it's my own fault. I'm not great with.
You're set up, dude. You're totally set up. I set you up for success.
But I feel like I forget everything.
It's great. Look, if the other guy, if Hockey Jesus can do it,
that is true. He's not exactly there, kind of on my brain level.
There you go. That's yes, brain level. Yeah, being the key part of that. All right,
keep it clean.
I understand, but no need. This is a Philly show.
Yes. All right. So you will get your Philly report, your 10-9-8-76ers report.
That's exactly right. Haven't heard that
playoff game.
Haven't heard that all year.
Yep.
Say it with me. 10-9-8-76ers. There you go. This is the Sports Porch Philadelphia. You can catch the Sports Porch Philadelphia podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. Mm-hmm. And of course, I dropped a comment. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're getting that all fired up so you can actually watch this pretty face next to me talk all things Philly sports at any time. Anytime. It can be midnight. You can be working the overnight shift at the Wawa and
walking around the track.
Yeah. and watching it. Page 2, the Phillies. How do you feel about their lukewarm start to the season, Schwaber? Where are we? What's going on?
I feel it's pretty lukewarm. We're 4-5.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I don't know. The Phillies are just kind of, for whatever reason. I mean, look, we know they're going to be a good team. We know that they will probably, unless there's, a major injury of some sort, they'll probably make the playoffs.
Right.
But, they're almost kind of like turning into like this just boring, and not boring, an annoying team.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, for example, Bryce Harper. Like, look, I mean, I can't complain about Bryce Harper. Stephen Flitch is watching now.
Yeah, of course.
He doesn't like the brain.
Hockey Jesus was upset with you. I thought he was going to be here and make an appearance. Get your ass over here and defend yourself, Hockey Jesus. Anyway, so well, let me throw this out here. Yeah. Let me just interrupt you real quick.
Interrupt.
Spencer Strider.
That helps the Phillies.
There you go.
It does.
I mean, this is an opportunity for them, and of course, we wish him a speedy recovery.
But you know what? At the same time, I'm willing to bet that doesn't derail the Braves one frickin' bit. Remember when they finally won the World Series? Who was it? Ronald Acuna that was out for half the year.
That's true.
So he was out, right? And it didn't bother them one bit.
Well, it's not like they have one or two players that carry them on their backs. Right, they have it's top to bottom, great baseball.
And at the trade deadline, they'll find an ace somewhere, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So. But does it help the Phillies? Yeah.
Well, they don't have to face him.
You don't have to face him. Right. Although they're undefeated against him.
That's true. Yeah.
That's true. But still, I mean, look, at some point that runs out. Right?
Yes.
So that's a positive. But, the thing about the Phillies that just drives me up a wall is, and I got to say, the manager.
I know you. I mean, look, I've heard this about Topper for 3 years, ever since he took over. Even though they made the World Series.
Here's the thing, actually, when he took over, I couldn't have been more happy.
Of course not. They went from being nothing to going to the World Series.
Right, exactly. And he pressed all the right buttons. And what I actually kind of liked about him was I thought that he was a little bit less analytics and a little bit more gut feeling.
Right.
But I feel like as time moved along, he became more analytic based because I think the Phillies, the organization, is a little more analytics based. Like, so here's a perfect example for you of, in my mind, I'm sorry, Topper, but baseball idiocy. Okay. So yesterday, it's the 7th inning. Okay. It's a 2-2 game. They had played Edmundo Sosa, who's one of our role players.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And guess what? Good move, Topper. Had a good, analytics works in that case. He had a good, batting record against that pitcher. He's 2 for 2 with a home run, and he knocked in both runs. Okay?
But
we've got 2 runs
Yeah.
that Edmundo Sosa is completely responsible for. And what we're going to do after he's 2 for 2
take him out.
is we're going to take him out for a pinch hitter in the 7th?
I don't get that.
What?
I really don't get that.
Why would you do that?
I don't know.
Why?
Yeah, really.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes no sense to go with the guy who's hot.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this question. Was he 0 against the pitcher they brought in?
To be honest, I don't know.
Okay, but that would have to be the reason. That's the only reason. I mean, there was no good reason, but that would have to be the
reason. But see, my guess is this. Now, I don't know 100%, but my guess is that it was more we want to go lefty versus right.
Of course, yeah. That drives me batshit, and it's always driven me crazy, even before analytics became a huge part of the game.
Right.
I always thought that we'll just use a name, controversial name, but like Barry Bonds was a left-handed hitter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, doesn't matter. Steroids, throw that stuff out. He was just a great hitter.
Sure.
Okay, are you going to take Barry Bonds out because it's a righty they brought in? No, you're not.
You mean a left?
Or I'm sorry, left.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Are you going to take him out of the lineup? No.
Right.
This guy is too now. I'm not comparing this dude to Barry Bonds, but you put him in the game. He's swinging a hot bat. It's working. Why are you taking him out?
Right.
Why?
Right.
Just because the guy's pitching from a different angle? Because that's what it's about.
Right.
I'm with you 100% on that.
And it's like, you just think about some of the games they lost this year. Okay, they lost the first game. Wheeler goes out for 6 shutout innings. So we take him out. He doesn't throw 100 pitches. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you take him out, and then immediately the Braves start teeing off.
Listen, the Pirates, and this is something we'll get into in our Pittsburgh show, but the Pirates pulled Jared Jones, who was throwing essentially a no-hitter, and then there was an error. I call it an error. They called it a hit, and they didn't leave him in for the 7th inning. And for me, it's kind of like, look, the guy, let him go out there for the 7th inning.
Yeah, you just keep going.
Yeah. He hasn't lost any velocity.
Right.
He lost a no-hitter, but it didn't seem to phase him. I hate that stuff.
Yeah, it's just annoying.
Yeah, and it seems like Topper does that more often than not. He's
right.
Now, the question really is he had not been a manager at the major league level prior to taking the Phillies job, right? Or had he?
No, but he was like the number one bench coach for like 30 years.
Well, I get it.
Joe Torre.
I get it, but the point is, that first year that he came in mid-season,
that was his first time as head coach.
Gut feeling, and so what turned him into an analytics guy, or was he always an analytics guy, but he kind of had to think on his feet because it's like, oh my God, I'm the manager of the team now. Was that the difference?
I don't really know.
And why don't people ask these hard questions?
Right.
That's what I don't appreciate about the media nowadays.
Right.
Is that they really softball a lot of stuff, even the tough questions.
True. Although I will say this though. I will say, I guess the way you could derive an answer is he is an analytics guy because every answer he gives is the analytics version.
Okay, so there's the answer.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So. And it's just annoying. It's like, you got Zach Wheeler's got a 0.75 ERA, and I don't think he has a win yet.
Yeah, how does that happen?
Like 2 games, you couldn't score any runs for him.
Yeah. Well, that's not analytics. That's there are loads of pitchers in. You look at a guy like Nolan Ryan.
Right. Got runs
there were many years it was very hard, and sometimes what happens is hitters relax,
right, because they think we got it.
Yeah, we got it.
2, we got
that. That's right.
But there was one exciting game where Bryce Harper did hit 3 home runs, including a grand slam.
Yeah.
So that was a fun game.
Yeah.
But it's one of these things where Castellanos is just He got a single the other day, I guess, to get himself out of a slump.
He's starting cold.
He's starting cold.
Real Muto homered after a walk.
Real Muto is actually off to a good start.
Yeah.
He apparently adjusted his swing in the offseason. And it seems to be working.
Yeah.
So, here's the other one. Okay, here's the other big thing with the Phillies. Johan Rojas in center field.
Right.
Okay. Now here's the deal. Okay, he costs nothing because we drafted him. All right. And when you have a big payroll, you need some people in there that cost nothing. Right. He's an elite center fielder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he can cover a lot of ground, makes great catches. He's fantastic. Okay. He can't hit. Okay. He can't hit at all. I mean, no, look, I don't know how it happened. Somehow he came up last year, and in a half a season, he hit 300. I really just don't know how it happened, because then once we got to the playoffs, he couldn't hit. Like, he had maybe like a .052 batting average in the playoffs, right?
Right.
And the whole thing is,
well, that's butterflies, butterflies.
And the whole thing, but they talked all off season about he's going to hit, he's going to adjust. Now, at what point do you just say, maybe this guy just can't hit?
Well, it's only 9 games in, Schwaber.
It's 9 games in. He hasn't hit the ball out of the infield.
Okay, but we've talked about this. We talked about it last year. It's early. When June rolls around, you start to see the face of a franchise.
But I think that is true. The Grant Schwalbini uttered that.
That's exactly me. Right.
That's me.
I'm quoting you.
Thank you for reminding me.
That's right.
But, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, sometimes I feel like the Grant Schwalbini thinks he knows things.
Yes. Well, the Grant Schwalbini does know some things.
And my feeling is he ain't got it.
Okay.
I just don't feel like he got it.
So you're using the eye test when you're watching him hit.
I'm using the eye test. I don't think he can hit.
Yeah.
The bottom line is he came up. Nobody saw him before. They probably said, "Oh, Johan Rojas. Okay, I'll go. Let's throw one down the middle. Get a first call strike.
How are we going to pitch to this guy? Right.
Then he's got some hits and cranked it up to the point where,
well, that's what happens.
But the pitchers have adjusted to him, and I have not seen an adjustment back. I hope I'm wrong. And he starts to hit and all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing: like we got this guy Christian Pache. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He was a previous Oakland A's, I think, #1 draft pick.
Right.
He's also a great fielder.
Okay.
And I believe he can hit.
Well, have you seen him hit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, look, now he didn't hit, like 300 like Rojas did, but he came up, I don't know, he maybe hit like, 250 or something.
Right.
But has power,
Right.
And he's fast as heck, just like Rojas. Look, Rojas is probably a little better center fielder than him, but by a lot.
Right.
This dude makes diving catches too.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. Like, he's the better player. Just play him.
Well, like I said, it's early. Maybe things turn around. Maybe he's not just going home at night and crying in his beer. He's probably after the game, he's going down to the cages. Mm-hmm. He's working with the batting coaches, and you're absolutely right. When he came up last year, what happened is they didn't know what to throw him.
Right.
And now they have figured out where his hot spots are. Can he hit the inside pitch? Can he turn on it? Is he vulnerable to high and outside, And that's what happens. Now they've figured out how to pitch to him, and he's got to make an adjustment. Honestly, he's a young player.
Yeah, but honestly, like, I see when I say, like, I don't think a guy can hit, like, I think of him as a guy who can't hit. I don't think his bat speed is fast enough.
Okay, see,
that's the eye test. It's like everything that he hits is a ground ball to the first baseman.
Yeah, so is he right? He's a right.
He's a right-hander.
Yeah, so he's late on the pitch.
Yeah.
And that was something that when Chris Davis played for the Orioles a long time ago, he had that legendary season where he had 50 home runs.
Yeah.
And then he got that big contract. And when I watched him swing, he had the longest swing I've ever seen. Like it felt like it took 2 seconds. Yeah. And that's because he had really long arms and he had a really big bat.
Right.
And all I could think about was when is this guy going to choke up on the bat and shorten his swing?
Right.
But he was trying to hit home runs. And that's why. And so, whatever coaching they gave him was not working. So you got it, but you got to give it time for Rojas. You got to give it time.
Well, and this is where my disappointment with their off season comes in.
Okay.
Because they signed Aaron Nola. I guess that's as good as signing a free agent because he was a free agent.
Right.
The Braves made him a big offer.
Right.
So whatever. But he was also on the team last year.
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, so in a sense, really all we've done is, we played without Rhys Hoskins last year, but we basically lost Rhys Hoskins, and that's it. We had Bellinger sitting out there.
Mm-hmm.
We had Jordan Montgomery sitting out there. The Diamondbacks got Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah. Well, they did already have a huge payroll, so money could have been involved in that.
Maybe. Here's what I think that they're actually trying to do. I actually believe that their plan is they're giving Rojas a half a season.
Okay.
And if he isn't it, they're going to try to trade for Mike Trout at the trade deadline.
They'll move on. Yeah.
That's what they're going to try to do.
Right.
Because there's a lot of talk about that the Angels are going to stink and it's finally time for him to move on.
Right.
And I think that's what they're going to try to do. But, the bottom line is 4-5, look,
early.
As long as you don't fall to the old 10 games under 500, then you're fine.
Well, and even then,
and
they've done it before.
Yeah, they'll start winning, but, it's just kind of an annoyance.
So tonight, the Phillies are in St. Louis. The Cardinals right now are 5-5. Spencer Turnbull is taking the bump for.
Usually had a good first start.
Yeah, he's 1-0. His ERA is a blistering 0. 5 innings, 3 hits, 7 Ks in his first start against Miles Mikolas, who looks to be fairly average or less this year. So, this is the start of what?
And then the Buccos come into town.
And then you get the Buccos.
Look at the Buccos. The Buccos.
Yeah.
First place Buccos.
I know. Can't wait to talk about them. Yeah. So, again, early in the season, not much to talk about. To be hovering around 500 after 9 or 10 games, it means absolutely nothing.
I know, but it's just annoying.
Well, everybody wants their team to get off to a 9-0 start.
It's annoying.
But you know how that ends. A lot of times these teams, they rocket to the top and everybody gets excited and then they play under 500 ball the rest of the year. Okay, moving on the Sports Porch Philadelphia, where right now, if you're watching live, you're watching us on Facebook, X, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And of course, we drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. Please subscribe, leave us a review. I dropped the comment earlier. I'll put this up on the screen again. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Remember, YouTube is free, guys. So you can catch the Grand Schwabini. He'll be updating the Phillies, updating the Sixers and their playoff run as the year goes on. Page 3. This is something that's yes,
of the Flyers, the slow death.
The slow death of the Flyers,
So,
or as we like to call it right now, the collapse.
It is. You know what? And I'll tell you what. It's been a year of collapses. The Eagles collapsed.
They did.
You could almost say the Phillies had a mini collapse. In the NLCS, they were up 2-0 on the Diamondbacks. They lost 4 or 5. And had a mini collapse in the playoffs.
Yeah, but that was 2023. That was 2023.
Well, so was the Eagles.
Well, partially. It was kind of both. Yeah.
But, I'm just saying the last season.
I'm just trying to give you a silver lining.
Essentially
silver lining. Silver lining, Schwaber.
Yeah, and, the Flyers, they're just not getting it done. Everything was set up for them. They played really well for 3/4 of the season. And, then the bottom fell out. What the reality is that it really did hurt not having Carter Hart.
Right.
Sam Ersson did an admirable job, but I think he's just spent. He's a rookie, and I think I don't think he's got much left.
That's where I was going to go with it. I think they got wore out.
And, they probably, at least if the goal was to make the playoffs, and to be honest, I'm not 100% that was the goal. But if that was the goal, they shouldn't have traded Sean Walker, because that's a huge loss on defense that now Colorado's benefiting from.
Yeah.
So they did those things, but the reality is that other than getting a couple points for some overtime losses, I mean they've lost 7 in a row. I mean think about it. They've lost 7 in a row, and they're still actually 1 point out of a playoff spot.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous.
Well, that means it was a collapse.
Yeah,
7 in a row.
Yeah, and then and I will say too, like one thing Steve, our buddy, the Hockey Jesus, has been talking about is that obviously Torts has a shelf life, right? And I will say that it's very possible that look, he did a lot of good things this season, got a lot out of this team, but at the same time, I feel like when things started to go poorly, he kind of overreacted and might have lost the team a little bit. Like one of the things that he did before this collapse was he decided to bench the captain for 2 games.
Right.
Like Sean Couturier.
Yeah.
He's basically said he didn't like his pace in practice. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I just know he's one of the better players on the team.
Yeah.
And then
should we bring Hockey Jesus in since he's here to talk a little hockey?
If you want,
let's just hold on. Let me turn on his mic here.
Welcome, Hockey.
There's Hockey Jesus.
Hey,
let me go on my diatribe first.
Keep going. You're saying it right.
And so that's the first thing he does, and then like when he brings him back, he has him centering the 4th line, which I don't really get that. If you want to go back to an earlier game of the season against the Penguins, he's out there scoring a game-winning goal in overtime. Like that's the player he is. He's not some guy you put on the 4th line. And and then he just calls out the team for being soft, and all this stuff. And these are grown men and professionals. They're probably like, F this, man.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, the thing is like you can do that stuff, but you better be right. Because if you're not, then you lose everybody.
Yeah, and
it's all, how do the players react to you? And hey, unless he can figure a way out of this hole, which it certainly does not look like they're going to be able to do. The thing that's actually the most confusing about it is like they had a couple games in this gauntlet where I believe they got a loser point for losing to the Rangers in overtime, and they got a loser point for losing to the Boston Bruins in overtime. So really good teams. And then they play these horrible teams and get blown out.
Yeah.
Like smoked by them.
Yeah.
It like doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
So it's disappointing. I still hope that, the only hope that I have is that this is their longest losing streak of the season where they've lost 7 games in a row.
Right.
The only hope that I have is right before the All-Star break, they lost 5 games in a row. And then they came out off after the All-Star break and they won 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
So now they did have the benefit of a nice break,
right?
Right. Which they don't have now.
So they have 4 games left. Canadians and the Rangers both away, and then back home to finish the season against the Devils and the Capitals. If they win out, who has to help them? Let's bring Hockey Jesus in here real quick.
Yeah, they need help. Depending on what the Pens do tonight. If the Pens win tonight, they're in big trouble because the Pens go 2 games above them, and they have the first tiebreaker against basically anybody they would be tied with, whether it's the Flyers, the Islanders, Capitals, or Detroit. The Pens pretty much own. It's regulation wins, and the Pens have 31 regulation wins. I think the closest team is actually the Flyers, and they have 28. So they would have to win. They would have to win all their regulation games. But even if they do, to be tied with the Pens are going to get wins. They would all have to be wins in overtime in order for them to overtake that statistic.
So the chances are, would you say, under 5%?
I saw something today where
I think it's like 30%.
I'm much higher. Okay.
The Philadelphia is just below Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's at like at 32 and some change, and Philadelphia is like 28 and some change.
Yeah,
they have to beat Montreal. Look, they should have won both of those games at Buffalo and Columbus. I watched that Buffalo game. They were dominating the whole game, and then in the third period, they just fell apart. In Columbus, they just didn't show up. No. And honestly, that's a function I believe, of the Torch system. Like you said, like he does inexplainable things later in the season, but that's just who he is. Like if he sees anybody loafing,
Right.
he's going to make a mockery of them.
Right.
And that's why I always say he has a shelf life, because that's just bullshit. Like if you're at the end of the season and that's happening, he's a veteran. He probably, it maybe even has a slight injury, and maybe he even shouldn't be out there practicing, but he is, and maybe he's loafing because of that. He has, there's a hard line with him, and if you're on the opposite side of that line, you're out. I mean, there's no other way to do it in his system.
Right. And it's almost like
but he does bring around those young kids. Like,
yeah. I mean,
those kids come up and are like, man, I got to be on 24/7. And I think he got guys like Frost to actually wise up a little bit. And I think Forrester got a little bit tougher as the year went along. I told you, I think he's going to be a superstar in this league.
Yeah. I mean,
I would take that away from the season no matter what happens with the playoffs.
I mean, so that's the interesting thing. Like, he did this whole thing where he like healthy scratched Frost like the first 9 games or something.
Yeah, that was tough love.
And so it was.
He
like
thought he was too soft, so he's like, you got to get tougher.
And then apparently, like, there was a point in the season where he basically felt like Morgan Frost should be giving him more, and I guess he wasn't. And apparently, like, Frost asked Torts for a meeting and went in, and like they apparently like screamed at each other. And then since then, like, Morgan Frost is on the top line.
Yeah, right.
Like, like it's like that he gained his respect or something by doing that. You know what I mean?
But I think the best thing Philly can hope for is the Pens lose tonight, beat Montreal. Who knows? Maybe the Islanders lose to the Rangers.
I mean, there is still 2 spots.
Yeah. And the problem is Detroit plays the Capitals tomorrow night.
Right.
So hopefully that's not a 3-point game and it's only a 2-point game. But either way, one of those teams will be above Philadelphia. So I think, they would be ahead of the Islanders if they tied them. So they could sneak into the wild card too with a win and a Pens loss and a Islanders loss. So they're still in it for sure.
I mean, they're
still in it, but it's difficult.
Yeah, I do like the fact that they play the Caps in the last game.
Yeah,
I think that could be whoever wins that game gets in for that second spot.
It could, but they're still going to have to beat the Rangers at the Rangers, and they're going to have to beat New Jersey at home. And that's a tough call.
Well,
although New Jersey might be out of it by then, so that would be to Philly's benefit.
I don't know. I think the best they can do, honestly, is go 3-1 and need help. They basically need somebody to lose a game that they're supposed to win. Unless
they get an overtime, if there's an overtime loss in there, they're only going to end up with 89 points. I don't think that's going to be enough.
No,
I don't.
All right. Well, we'll have to see.
They might have to run if they run it, then they got a good chance. The problem is what will the Pens do? If the Pens go 2-2 in their last 2, they're gonna. Well, they actually have 5 games, and that's the problem. The Pens have one more game than them, so that's also the problem. That's why you really needed to beat either Buffalo or Columbus to be tied, to be ahead of the Pens, and then have the Pens have to win tonight at Toronto. That gives the Penguins some breathing room. And you're right. It's definitely the Pens. I think the Islanders are going to be in no matter what.
You think so?
I mean, it's really hard to know because the Rangers need to win one more game, and they play the Islanders, and then they play Philly, and then they play the Islanders again. If they win one of those games, they're going to win the President's Cup. They're going to stop playing after that.
Right.
So really, the best thing that can happen is the Rangers beat the Islanders, and they don't really have anything to play for against Philly.
Well, we'll see. Maybe next week we're still talking about hockey.
It's a crazy time for hockey.
And maybe we're not. Let's go to page 4.
But I do think it's kind of like it's a weird sport in that, somebody could all of a sudden just like lose their last 4 games.
Yeah, it's fair. And it could be the Pens because they're on an 8-game point scoring streak. It could be them. I mean, it absolutely could.
All right, page 4. Thank you, Hockey Jesus.
Right,
page 4 for the Eagles. Various and sundry. Not a whole lot going on. The draft is coming up. Any significant changes? Anything that you feel needs talking about before we bring up something and tease it, something that's coming down the line here?
The only thing that's really happened since last episode, they re-signed Avante Maddox to a 1-year deal. Who, look, I mean, he was a good cornerback. He was awful when he came back after missing like 3/4 of the season last year. It's probably because he was still injured. So good to have him back, and no big commitment to him either. So if he has lost it because of injury, then it's just a 1-year deal.
Right.
And then we locked up Jordan Mailata with a 3-year, $66 million deal. He was rated by Pro Football Focus as the 4th best left tackle in football.
Yeah.
So good to have a young guy kind of wrapped up, protecting the blind side of Jalen for the next few years. So that's a good move too.
All right.
So I mean, we'll see. There's still a lot of stuff that will play out and happen. I'm still thinking that the first round draft pick is either going to be an offensive lineman or a defensive end. That's just the way the Eagles do it. And you know what? For the most part, it's worked. Although, us Eagles fans, we would love to see something new. We would love to see a cornerback or, a linebacker or somebody like that, but we never get to see it.
Well, we'll continue to monitor that, of course, and any other big things that come along. And as always, you can catch us, the Sports Philadelphia, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. Now we're going to tease something that we love doing. This is the Sports Porch is part of this, but it's on Philadelphia Beautiful. It is something we do every year. The 2024 Philadelphia Cheesesteak Challenge is coming soon. The weather's getting warmer. People are out for the cherry blossom festivals all over Philadelphia.
Cherry blossoms are booming.
Yeah, it's time to have some cheesesteaks outside, sitting outside of Pat's Steaks or Gino's or wherever.
Don't lose your credibility there. I know if you're from Philly, you don't like hearing about the tourist traps.
Well, I mean, whatever.
I know. You're just, you're
What? Go ahead. Insult me. I'm waiting for it. You're verklempt. You're lost for words. You don't know what to say.
Because the words are so bad. I can't take them over the air. So,
well, I listen, going to school in Philly, I loved Pat's Steaks. Right. What's not to love about Pat's Steaks?
Hey, at the time, that's what was available.
That was it. And that was in the 90s. So you're absolutely right.
Them and Jim's was always my favorite.
So every year, Schwaber does the Philadelphia Cheesesteak Challenge. This will be the 6th year coming up.
6th year, yeah.
6th year. Yeah. And we are really looking forward to it. Now, it is only April. The challenge itself, you vote on Facebook. We'll have some online voting and stuff going on. Is actually going to take place in July. But we're working on the great cheesesteak debate that's going to happen before that. We'll have more to talk about in the future on that. But I can't wait for that. There's so much hype around this.
It's going to be fun.
Last year's winner was Curly's, right? Curly's Comfort Food in Levittown.
Yep.
And we really appreciated them being a part of that. The previous year, do you remember?
Previous year was
Chubby's, that's right.
The year before, I think, was Del Sandro's.
And the year
before, I think, was John's Roast Pork.
Right. And do you remember the first year? I can't remember.
First year was Jim's.
That's right. And Jim's is coming back online now, right? Aren't they? Did they open up?
Oh, they're back open.
Okay, so maybe we'll see. So if you guys want to follow along for that would be friggin' awesome. And until then, Schwaber, I think that's about it for us this week.
That's all we got.
Can't believe it.
10-9-8 76ers.
There you go. You can follow us and leave us a review. Grab us on YouTube, the Sports Porch Philadelphia, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on X, all over the damn world.
Yeah,
not just Philadelphia.
All over the damn world.
And if you didn't see the eclipse today, don't worry about it. I didn't watch it either. It's not a big deal.
I was, because I thought it was going to stink. It was actually better than I thought.
Yeah.
But I only watched about 20 seconds.
I slept through it. All right, guys. Have a good week.
Eclipse!